A well-known news anchor sat across the table from former U.S. President Donald Trump. Both of them were used to intense discussions. Trump had built a reputation for speaking boldly and directly, while the anchor was known for asking sharp, challenging questions that often put guests on the spot. From the very beginning, the atmosphere felt tense. The anchor started the interview with a series of tough questions. She asked about Trump's past statements, his policies, and the controversies that had followed him throughout his political career. Her tone was confident and controlled, the tone of someone who had spent years questioning powerful figures on live television. Trump answered each question in his usual style, direct, firm, and sometimes a little dramatic. He spoke about his influence in politics and the loyalty of his supporters. As he explained his views, he appeared completely comfortable in the spotlight, as if he had done this 1,000 times before. But then, something small happened that changed the entire mood of the room. After Trump made a bold comment about his popularity and the support he believed he still had across the country, the anchor reacted with a short laugh. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. But it was noticeable. For a split second, it felt like time slowed down. The laughter seemed to suggest that she didn't fully believe what Trump had just said. It carried the kind of subtle skepticism that viewers could easily pick up on. Suddenly, the studio felt quieter than before. The audience watching from home could sense the tension building. Moments like this are unpredictable on live television, and everyone knew it. The cameras captured everything: the anchor's smile, Trump's expression, and the brief pause that followed. Most people expected Trump to react immediately. Over the years, he had become famous for responding quickly and sometimes aggressively when challenged or criticized. Many viewers were probably waiting for a sharp comeback or a heated argument. But what happened next surprised everyone. Trump didn't interrupt. He didn't raise his voice. Instead, he paused for a moment, almost as if he was carefully thinking about how to respond. Then he leaned forward slightly in his chair, looked directly at the anchor, and spoke in a calm, steady voice. What he said next completely changed the tone of the conversation and turned a simple moment of laughter into something far more powerful. The anchor continued smiling, clearly confident in her position. She had interviewed many powerful figures before, from business leaders to world politicians, and challenging them was simply part of her job. Moments of tension didn't make her uncomfortable. In fact, they were often what made interviews interesting. She leaned back slightly in her chair, still holding that small, amused smile. "Are you serious?" she asked, her voice calm but carrying a hint of disbelief. The question hung in the air. Across the table, former U.S. President Donald Trump didn't respond immediately. Instead of interrupting or reacting quickly, he simply watched her for a moment. He waited. For a few seconds, the studio became unusually quiet. Even the background sounds, the subtle movement of cameras and the faint shuffling of papers, seemed to fade away. It looked as if Trump was carefully choosing his next words. The cameras slowly zoomed in closer, capturing every detail: the anchor's confident expression, Trump's steady gaze, and the tension building between them. Viewers at home could sense that something important was about to be said. Then Trump finally spoke. "I understand why you're laughing," he said calmly. His voice was steady, almost surprisingly relaxed. "A lot of people laughed before, too." The anchor's smile paused for a moment. She raised an eyebrow slightly, curiosity replacing some of the amusement on her face. She clearly hadn't expected that kind of response. Trump leaned forward, just a little, and continued speaking. "People laughed when I said I would run for president," he said. He paused briefly before finishing the thought. "People laughed when I said I would win." Those words changed the atmosphere in the room almost instantly. The studio, which had felt light just moments earlier, now seemed much more serious. The anchor's smile slowly faded as she listened. Trump wasn't raising his voice. He wasn't attacking her or trying to turn the moment into an argument. Instead, he spoke in a measured, controlled tone, almost like someone calmly reminding the audience of a story they already knew. Then he added one more sentence. And you know what happened next? For a brief moment, no one spoke. The statement seemed to hang in the air, giving both the anchor and the viewers time to think about it. The anchor shifted slightly in her chair, adjusting her posture, as if realizing the conversation had suddenly taken a direction she hadn't expected. What had started as a light moment of laughter had now turned into something much more serious, a reminder of how unpredictable politics can be, and how quickly a simple reaction on live television can transform the entire tone of an interview. Instead of turning the moment into a heated argument, Trump continued speaking calmly. You see, he said, politics is full of people who think they know exactly what will happen. He explained how many analysts, journalists, and commentators had predicted his political career would fail before it even started. But sometimes, he added, the people watching at home think differently. The anchor listened closely now. Her earlier laughter had turned into curiosity. Trump explained that his success, in his view, came from connecting with ordinary voters who felt their voices were not being heard. You may laugh, he said with a slight smile, but millions of Americans didn't. The point wasn't just about the past election, it was about perception. The interview had started as a confrontation, but now it felt more like a conversation about perspective. The anchor leaned forward and responded thoughtfully. So you're saying the media often misunderstands what voters actually feel? Trump nodded. That happens more often than people think. For viewers at home, the moment was surprisingly calm compared to the dramatic exchanges many expected. But the most interesting part was still to come. The anchor decided to challenge him again, but this time in a different way. If that's true, she asked, what do you think the media gets wrong the most? Trump paused briefly before answering. They underestimate people, he said. They assume voters think a certain way because that's what they hear in studios like this. The comment wasn't meant as an insult, but it clearly carried a message. The anchor nodded slowly. For a moment, both of them seemed to recognize something important about the situation. Political debates often become loud and emotional, but this conversation had turned into a reflection on how media and public opinion interact. The anchor admitted that predicting elections and public reactions can be difficult. That's fair, she said. Sometimes the reality surprises everyone. Trump smiled slightly. And sometimes, he replied, the people who are laughing are the ones who end up surprised. The studio audience reacted quietly, sensing the tension, but also the unusual calmness of the exchange. The conversation moved forward, but that brief moment, when laughter turned into reflect after the broadcast ended, clips of the exchange quickly spread online. People shared the moment when the anchor laughed, and the calm response that followed. Supporters of Trump praised his composure, saying he handled the moment confidently. Critics viewed the exchange differently, focusing on the political debate itself. But regardless of political opinion, many viewers agreed on one thing: the moment was memorable. It showed how quickly a conversation can shift. A small laugh turned into a serious discussion about media, perception, and public opinion. For the anchor, it was a reminder that interviews can take unexpected directions. For Trump, it was an opportunity to reinforce the message he had repeated throughout his political career, that many people underestimate the power of public support. And for viewers watching at home, it was another example of how unpredictable live television can be. One simple laugh, one unexpected response, and suddenly, an ordinary interview became a moment that millions of people couldn't stop talking about. Tian became the highlight of the interview,